Afghans went to the polls over the weekend, and the election seems to have been a reasonable success, despite some problems. But is a robust election really going to secure a fair future for Afghanistan? Former Deputy Undersecretary of Defense Paul Brinkley has doubts and joins us now. Thank you very much for joining us today. You have worked in Afghanistan. You were there trying to implement a type of Marshall Plan, which is what rebuilt Europe.
Yes.
An election in itself is a good thing, right? People going to the polls with all their dyed fingers, women and men voting. That's a good thing, right?
It's a great thing. And I think, this weekend represents a victory and a sign of hope for how the Afghan people view the future. To come out in the face of potential violence and take the direction they took this weekend based on early results is a positive sign for the future of Afghanistan, but by no means sufficient in terms of creating the kind of institutions that we've all spent so much time, money, and the blood of our young people to try to put in place.
Now, historically, economic development has come before universal democracy. We saw that in the UK, we saw that in Western Europe, and to some extent in the US, which took it further than Europe had. What needs to be done, and what is the real gaping hole that you see?
Well, we entered Afghanistan after the fall of the Taliban in 2002, and we sort of bought into an idea that if you have elections and you hold a vote and people elect leaders, that all good things are going to follow. And you just mentioned, I don't know really anywhere in history where it's ever worked that way. Democracies are built on a foundation of an economy and a middle class that has an interest in sustaining democratic institutions. Somehow in the past few decades, the United States, the Western countries have lost sight of this importance. Maybe it's our prosperity. I don't want to project too much.
Well, it's the richest country the world has ever been.
Exactly.
It towers above even Western Europe, which is rich. So getting those institutions in place, now at the moment, they're not there. And the economy really isn't there. There's sort of a little bit of agriculture, and a lot of that little bit of agriculture is poppies, which means heroin, and that's not a great way to have an economy. The mining industry is not there. There aren't really any roads. It's relying on international aid.
That's correct. So over 60% of Afghan GDP today is due to international aid. And so as the international community draws down in a country with some of the richest mineral resources and some of the most productive agricultural land in the world, we have not invested and focused on the proper social and economically responsible development of those sectors of an economy that could have created employment, that could create a backbone for this next leader to be able to shape institutions to reflect Afghan society. And to me, this is the next stage of opportunity in Afghanistan, and I really hope at this point. Our mission started in 2009, years too late, and it was abruptly wrapped up a couple of years later.
And how do you get the investors back in when the country doesn't, I mean, from the outside, and I'm not an expert, it doesn't look safe. I mean, if I was a mining CEO and I want to put a mine in that, I'd be a bit worried about my workers.
This is where we are after 11 years. So there have been many windows of time during the Afghan experience for the West where there had been windows of safety where that could have been developed. Figuring out how to entice and incentivize investors to come in, international engagement to come in, to develop economic institutions is to me the biggest challenge of the next Afghan government.
The biggest challenge? Well, we know the White House is watching. Maybe they'll do something. Former Deputy Undersecretary of Defense Paul Brinkley, we appreciate it, making his debut on the News Hub, and didn't he do well?